In today's video, we will analyze the roster of masters in Fate's Strange Fake. Each of them carries a distinctive past, along with motives and abilities that are anything but ordinary. So who are they really? What kind of power do they possess? And are their ambitions in the Holy Grail War great enough to stand against the other factions? Without further delay, let's begin. Note, this video contains major spoilers from the light novel, so please consider carefully before watching if you have not read the original work. Saber Faction, Ayaka Sajyou. The Saber Faction is a special and unique case. There is no distinction between true or fake, as this servant was summoned immediately after the fake servant system was completed. The original master was merely a hired magus, but he was killed by Zealot at the very beginning. The contract was then transferred to Ayaka Sajyou, a girl who had been abducted and dragged into the war. Interestingly, within the Fate universe, there exist two versions of Ayaka. One is the protagonist of Fate prototype, black-haired, possessing relatively modest magical ability, and living in a world where Arthur is male. The other belongs to the current timeline and had never participated in a Holy Grail War. After graduating from high school, she studied at the Clock Tower and became acquainted with Flat, the master of fake berserker. The Ayaka participating in this war, however, has an appearance nearly identical to the original Sajyou, differing only in hair color. Her true nature is a fusion between an unnamed young man, whom we will refer to as A, and a phantasmal being known as Little Red Riding Hood. Ayaka's origin in Fate's Strange Fake traces back to 3 magical reactors created from phantasmal creatures that Kenneth once brought to Fuyuki during the Fourth Holy Grail War. After his death, these reactors fell into the hands of a magus couple. They reactivated one of them and disguised it as a young girl. In other words, Little Red Riding Hood. The problem was that the girl's magical energy was far too immense. It leaked continuously, eroding their sanity and gradually driving them insane, leading to disturbing and depraved behavior toward her. By chance, the black-haired Sajyou witnessed A and Little Red Riding Hood injured inside an elevator. She then placed a magical suggestion upon A to help that girl whenever necessary. Later, overwhelmed by the immense magical energy, the magus couple completely lost their minds and were killed by the girl herself. At that point, she sought A for help. Due to the earlier suggestion cast by black-haired Ayaka, and because A himself was inherently lonely, he misinterpreted the command as, "I love Sajyou." This internal conflict shattered his psyche. As Little Red Riding Hood stood on the verge of disappearing, A offered up his own body for her to inhabit. The girl inherited A's memories, morals, and knowledge, yet this inheritance led her to believe that she had killed everyone. Her mind fractured, her sense of self blurred with A's, and she gradually transformed her appearance into that of Ayaka, the girl A had loved. The blonde Sajyou later encountered Faria, a homunculus of the Einsburn family. With a single glance, Faria discerned her true nature. Rather than saving her, Faria chose exploitation, implanting a holy mark with an automatic function to seize master authority from surrounding magi, brainwashing her and casting her into the Holy Grail War. Fake Archer Faction, Tiné Chelc. The original master of Fake Archer was merely an ordinary magus, yet he poured the entirety of his family's wealth and magical energy into participating in the war. However, immediately after completing the summoning ritual, his command seals were seized by Tiné, and he himself was swiftly eliminated by Gilgamesh. In a fit of rage, he attacked Tiné, only to be killed in retaliation. Tiné is the leader of the indigenous tribe that protects the land of Snowfield. She holds no wish for the Holy Grail. Her sole objective is to expel the Magi who brought the Holy Grail War to this land and reclaim her people's territory. Unlike Western magecraft systems, Tiné's tribe follows its own unique principles. Infants with potential, chosen to inherit the tribe's magic crest, are forcibly linked to the land's ley lines through a blood-soaked ritual requiring human sacrifice. After inheriting the magic crest, the successor becomes a mystical catalyst who forms a direct covenant with the land itself. The price is absolute. They will die if they leave the territory. In return, they can use magecraft at maximum efficiency, even without incantations, and can compel the land to expand its magical circuits to pass them on to the next generation. To sustain this ritual, tens of thousands of tribespeople have been sacrificed. Originally, Tiné herself was destined to become such a sacrifice. However, when the tribes sensed the onset of the Holy Grail War, they chose to preserve her and designate her as a master instead. Tiné can wield high-intensity fire magecraft without incantations and commands 56 loyal subordinates. Unlike Tokiomi, who outwardly showed devotion while secretly harboring his own ambitions, Tiné genuinely acknowledges Gilgamesh as her king and remains absolutely loyal to him. Fake Lancer Faction, the Silver Wolf Chimera. The Silver Wolf Chimera was a spiritual beast created by a magus for one sole purpose: to serve as a catalyst for summoning a servant in the Holy Grail War. This magus had no desire to summon an ordinary heroic spirit. He believed he required an entity even more ancient and transcendent than the legendary kings of myth. However, the ritual spiraled out of control when the command seals failed to appear on the Magus's hand and instead manifested upon the body of the silver wolf itself. Believing he had been betrayed, the Magus immediately attempted to kill it. He fired a handgun loaded with magically infused bullets. Gravely wounded, the silver wolf fled into the forest but was ultimately shot down. Consumed by rage, the Magus sought not only to kill but to torture it. He pressed the heated barrel of his gun against its bleeding wounds, tormenting and cursing the beast for having failed in its role as a catalyst. At the brink of death, the creature no longer thought as a mere tool forged for ritual. Its survival instinct awakened, and the wolf let out an unconscious roar. The Magus failed to realize that this very roar completed the summoning ritual. A servant was called forth. Fake Lancer manifested. Lancer immediately turned toward his master and posed a question to formalize their contract. The silver wolf sensed no hostility from him and restrained its instinct to flee. Calmly, Lancer communicated in the language of beasts and formally established their pact. Afterward, Lancer carried his injured master to a nearby river to tend to its wounds. Once temporary treatment was complete, the exhausted wolf fell asleep in a field of grass. While it slept, Lancer conversed with his master, then perceived the familiar presence of an old friend, Gilgamesh. Enkidu departed to meet Gilgamesh, promising to return. After their encounter, Lancer truly did come back. From that moment onward, the wolf was no longer a sacrificial object for human ambition, but a true master in the Holy Grail War. Fake Rider Faction, Kuruoka Tsubaki. The original masters were meant to be the Kuruoka couple, conventional magi. They had once adopted the Mato family's worm magecraft and developed it into their own form of bacterial magecraft. In order to enhance their magical efficiency, they used this bacterial magecraft to alter the body of their daughter, Kuruoka Tsubaki. What makes this horrifying is that they did not love her humanity. They loved only the future of the family she represented. Even when Tsubaki fell into a coma, their sole concern was whether she would still be capable of bearing children. Some might draw comparisons to Tokiomi in Fate Zero, but that would be a misunderstanding. Tokiomi was unaware of the fate that awaited Sakura. Had he known, he would not have sent her away. Though a traditional magus, he never lost his humanity in the way the Kuruoka couple did. Initially, Tsubaki's parents prepared a relic to summon Qin Shi Huang. However, within Tsubaki's subconscious, her longing to see her parents took precedence. As a result, the true master of the Rider faction became Tsubaki herself, a 10-year-old girl lying comatose in a hospital room. And the cruelest part is this. Tsubaki has absolutely no awareness that she is participating in the Holy Grail War. She does not know who her servant is, nor does she know that the outside world has already turned into a battlefield. Fake caster faction, Orlando Reeve. Orlando Reeve is the chief of police of Snowfield City and also a magus. Though he cooperated with the mastermind behind the Holy Grail War's organization, his goals were not entirely aligned with theirs. Orlando did not wish to plunge the city into excessive chaos and still cared about civilian lives. His motive for entering the war was relatively clear, to prove that humanity can defeat servants. For that reason, he chose to summon a caster, specialized in enhancing others, rather than engaging in direct combat. As police chief, he has the authority to mobilize the city's forces. While ordinary officers are incapable of intervening in a supernatural conflict of this scale, Orlando also commands a special unit known as the Calatin Clan, in reality, numbering roughly 30 members. This group consists of elite individuals drawn from various divisions. Each inherits a portion of magecraft and is equipped with mystic codes crafted by caster. Thanks to this, they genuinely possess the capacity to inflict damage upon servants. Their struggle in Volumes 2 and 3, when attempting to corner Assassin and the Vampire, was largely due to unfavorable compatibility. Had they faced servants who rely primarily on conventional physical combat techniques, the confrontation might well have resulted in a truly balanced battle. Fake Assassin Faction, Jester Karture. The original masters of the Fake Assassin faction were a group of magi lured into participating in the war. Among them Jester, a dead apostle disguised as a magus. However, because they summoned an assassin with deeply problematic ideology, the entire group was slaughtered in an instant. Jester was no exception. The only difference was that after Assassin departed, Jester activated his regenerative ability and returned to the game. For viewers unfamiliar with Tsukihime, a simple explanation suffices. A dead apostle is essentially a vampire. However, in the Fate timeline, due to the overwhelming prosperity of human order, the collective will safeguarding humanity, and the strong operation of the counterforce, the potential of dead apostles is significantly suppressed. This means that while they do exist, they do not reach the terrifying heights seen in the Tsukihime world. Jester's confrontation with a member of the church serves as a clear example. Merely facing a vampire hunting specialist was enough to force him into retreat. Against a servant in direct combat, he would have little chance of victory. His ability to engage the police force equipped with mystic codes relied entirely on conceptual suppression. His very species holds an inherent advantage over humans. Jester possesses 6 hearts, each with a distinct soul and form. When he switches between them, even a servant would struggle to recognize them as the same entity. One heart has already been destroyed. If he loses all 6, he will revert to his original adolescent form. More than brute strength, cunning is Jester's true weapon. Fake Berserker Faction, Flat Escardos. Flat is a student of Waver Velvet and previously appeared in the case files of Lord El-Melloi II. Compared to the other masters, he is a genuine, all-around prodigy. However, his uniquely unconventional perspective and excessively optimistic attitude often place him on the thin line between genius and fool. Rejected by his family from a young age, Flat considers the El-Melloi classroom the only place where he truly belongs. Flat Escardos does not enter the Holy Grail War out of ambition or lofty ideals. His reason is astonishingly simple. He merely wants to see the Holy Grail with his own eyes. One day, while wandering through the halls of the clock tower, Flat accidentally bumped into a young man and then encountered Miss Cryer, an administrative staff member, who asked him to deliver 2 packages to his professor. Curious, Flat used clairvoyance to peek inside one of the boxes and was astonished to find an inscribed dagger. He became convinced that it was a catalyst prepared by his teacher to summon a servant, though at first glance it looked no more than a toy. When Flat delivered the packages, El-Melloi II assumed they were ordinary gifts and did not bother checking, casually handing them back to him. In that instant, something ignited within Flat. Perhaps this was the moment meant for him. Without preparation or hesitation, he immediately boarded a plane to the United States and stepped into the war. While examining the dagger and glancing at the command seals on his hand, Flat muttered to himself as though affirming his own destiny. Without incantations or a ritual altar, Flat summoned Berserker simply by tinkering with the surrounding flows of magical energy. His extraordinary talent was instantly acknowledged by his servant. Yet despite sensing the magical energy from the command seals linking him to Berserker, Flat was unable to determine his servant's true identity. Berserker manifests in multiple forms and reveals that he does not possess a single fixed identity, despite having once existed in history. This Berserker's wish is remarkably simple. He only wants to know who he truly is. From there, Flat observes the battle between Fake Lancer and Fake Archer by borrowing another's familiar to spectate, eagerly following the conflict, still not fully grasping just how dangerous the path he has stepped onto truly is. True Archer Faction, Bazdilot Cordelion. Bazdilot Cordelion is an extraordinarily dangerous individual affiliated with an American mafia family known as the Scladio family. The ambitions of this organization are far from modest. They seek to revive the worship of the Roman Empire on American soil. To expand their influence, the Scladio family recruits wandering magi, individuals who are hunted, unsupported, or financially ruined. In other words, they turn those cast aside by the magical community into instruments for their own grand design. One of the key figures orchestrating the entire plan from behind the scenes is Faldeus Dioland. In truth, Faldeus never intended for Bazdilot to become a master in this war, as he fully understood the extent of the man's danger. However, because the Scladio family has long colluded with certain factions within the US government, Faldeus had virtually no authority to oppose the decision. This is not merely a Holy Grail War. It is a political chess match backed by shadowed power structures. Faldeus's concerns are entirely justified. Bazdilot is suspected of involvement in over 125 murders, yet he has never been convicted due to lack of evidence. Many of the victims were magi, placing him under the scrutiny of the Clock Tower's Department of Law. Even so, they have been unable to apprehend him. This demonstrates that Bazdilot is not only ruthless, but exceptionally intelligent and meticulous. In terms of ability, Bazdilot specializes in domination magecraft and possesses an extraordinary level of mental fortitude, so immense that he can nurture the Holy Grail mud taken from Fuyuki City within his own body. This is the same cursed substance that appeared in the Fifth Holy Grail War, capable of corrupting even heroic spirits. The mere fact that a human can contain and control it is proof that Bazdilot's mental strength far exceeds ordinary standards. Nor does it end there. Leveraging his family's resources, he orchestrated the abduction of over 20,000 people, refining their life force into magical energy. The number is horrifying, yet because the process was carried out gradually over many years, blending into the statistics of missing persons in the United States, it attracted little attention. The device used to convert life force into magical energy originated from an artifact once owned by the Oil King, the former master of Castor in the Fifth Holy Grail War. Once again, all trails lead back to Fuyuki, the cradle of countless tragedies within the Fate universe. The reason for such large-scale preparation lies in the servant he summoned, one that demands an enormous supply of magical energy. An ordinary magus, even someone like Faldeus, could not sustain it. Only a family willing to employ inhuman methods such as the Scladio could hope to complete such a ritual. In personal combat, Bazdilot is far from ordinary. He wields specialized firearms designed to counter magi, can enhance his body for close-quarters combat, and possesses exceptionally sharp reflexes and tactical reasoning. Nevertheless, even he acknowledges that he is not invincible. So what truly makes Bazdilot terrifying? The answer lies in his psychology. He remains almost completely unmoved by any circumstance. His domination magecraft is not primarily used to control others, but to control himself, his emotions, his pain, even his fear. When a mass murderer possesses not only power but an unshakable iron will, he ceases to be merely a master and becomes a war machine in human form. True Lancer faction, Sigma. Sigma is a mercenary in the truest sense. A man without desire, without attachment, and almost entirely unbound by ideals. He is the son of Maya Hisao, who died in the Fourth Holy Grail War. Yet Sigma does not even know his mother's name. Maya gave birth to him after being assaulted on the battlefield, and from the very beginning, Sigma's life has been intertwined with violence and loss. Whether inherited from Maya, a cold-blooded assassin, or shaped by growing up amid war, Sigma possesses an exceptionally calm temperament. He does not pursue glory, harbor ambitions of power, nor dream of changing the world. For him, what truly matters is simply a meal for the day and a peaceful night's sleep. Even the name Sigma is not his real name, but more akin to a unit designation within a mercenary corps than a personal identity. This alone illustrates how he exists as a tool, an individual stripped of identity from an early age. Yet do not be deceived by his slight build. Counting from the time Kiritsugu Emiya rescued Maya until the present, Sigma is at least 25 years old. He is by no means a Shota, as some mistakenly assume. Though physically lean, his battlefield experience and survival skills are genuine, honed through years in harsh environments. There is an intriguing detail in the original novel that the anime omitted due to time constraints. When pursued by fake assassin, Sigma suddenly shouted, "Charlie Chaplin," pretending to call out his servant's name in coordinated combat. In reality, invoking the name of a silent film comedian stemmed purely from his habit of watching classic comedies. In that moment near death, the name slipped out as an unconscious reflex. Deep down, Sigma longs to laugh sincerely from the bottom of his heart. That is why he has watched countless comedic works, as if searching for an emotion he lacks. Sadly, he still cannot laugh. This realization leads Sigma to believe that he does not truly believe in anything. No ideals, no convictions, not even his own emotions. He lives like a shadow, existing only to complete missions. However, this Holy Grail War will gradually force him to confront himself. As he becomes entangled in clashes between heroes, ideals, and ambitions, the seemingly hollow interior within him begins to fracture. Outwardly, Sigma consistently claims that his heroic spirit is Lancer Charlie Chaplin. This serves both as a tactical deception to mislead enemies and as a psychological mask, a man who does not know who he truly is borrowing the name of a comedian to conceal the emptiness within. True caster faction, Francesca Prelati. Francesca regards the Holy Grail War as mere entertainment, a stage upon which to mock and diminish the very value of the Grail. To her, this is not a sacred ritual, but a large-scale toy. Francesca has existed since the Age of Gods up to the present day. Her immediate objective is to exploit the immense magical energy provided by the Holy Grail in order to break through the wall of the Great Labyrinth. Yet her ultimate ambition goes much further, to advance human technology to the point where it can eradicate magic. In blunt terms, she seeks to downgrade what is known as magic into magecraft, to turn that which lies beyond the reach of science into something that can be replicated, analyzed, and reproduced. To understand this ambition, one must recall an important principle of the Fate universe. Phenomena that humanity can achieve through science but can also reproduce through non-physical, non-scientific means are classified as magecraft, such as generating fire or causing explosions. In contrast, phenomena that science cannot accomplish at all, yet can be realized through metaphysical means, are called magic, such as time travel or the materialization of the soul. Francesca intends to drive scientific progress to the point where this boundary collapses. This is not merely an attempt to dismantle the mystical order, but a challenge to the very foundation of the magical world. And do not be deceived by her charming, youthful appearance. Her true nature is monstrous. A massive mouth resides in her abdomen, within which countless objects are stored. Her current body is merely a shell she has used for approximately 3 years. By her own admission, many individuals are capable of destroying her physical vessel, but truly killing her is another matter entirely. For example, the second magic user, Kishtur Zelret Schweinorg, known as the Jewel Mage, could accomplish such a feat. The magus Satsuki Kurogiri, who appeared in Kara no Kyokai, is another example. Or the hedonistic Count Saint-Germain, rumored to have lived for 2,000 years. The mother of Kuonji Alice in Mahutsukai no Yoru, now deceased, the Age of Gods fairies, the worm-raising elder of Fuyuki, Sokenmato, and especially Type Moon's cameo king, Aozaki Tuko, a magus holding the title of Grand Rank, a genius puppeteer, and elder sister of the fifth magic user. Tuco alone has destroyed Francesca's body more than 30 times. However, note this carefully. Destroying her body does not equate to killing her. According to Francesca herself, there is only one individual capable of truly killing her, and that identity remains a mystery. Francesca's origin is extraordinarily complex, directly tied to mythology within the Fate universe. The Greek gods such as Zeus and Athena are, in this cosmology, colossal interstellar exploration warships known as machine gods. Their forms on Earth are merely terminals of their mechanical true bodies. As machine gods, they were connected through networks and operating systems. Within such a system, a sentient entity emerged, one capable of destabilizing reason and spreading madness among both gods and humanity. The goddess of insanity, 8. One day, Zeus declared 8 useless, and the system was frozen and cast down to the mortal world. Legend claims that humanity began committing errors because 8 fell. The harsher truth, however, is this. Humanity was never foolish because of a discarded goddess. Humans were foolish from the beginning. After realizing she could not dominate humanity, yet still loved their madness, 8 integrated herself into the world. She became an existence neither spirit nor human, gradually acquiring a physical form known as a pseudo-servant. This entity inherited 8's characteristics, but was not identical to the original goddess. During her wandering, the pseudo-servant encountered lake spirits and learned magecraft from them. After witnessing nightmares, she incorporated even the concept of illusion into her essence of madness. She does not guide humanity, nor does she directly manipulate them. She merely adds fuel to the fire, driving already deluded humans further toward their chosen beliefs. To ensure her continued existence, she scattered replication materials across the world, substitute bodies to replace her whenever one perishes, allowing her to continue observing the world's movement. The current Francesca Prelati is merely one evolved copy, derived from the goddess Ate. In other words, the master of the true caster is not merely a long-lived magus, but a remnant of an ancient divine system, an entity that delights in humanity's chaos and wishes to witness them shatter every limitation with their own hands, even magic itself. True Rider Faction. The El-Melloi Classroom Collective. This may well be the most insane collective in the entire war. They are not a single individual, but a group of 30 elite magi, all students of Waver Velvet. Among them is the heroine of Fate's Stay Night, the 5 Great Elements prodigy, Tosaka Rin, along with her lifelong rival, Luviagelita Edelfelt. Their goal is singular, to destroy this counterfeit Holy Grail War at its root. For viewers unfamiliar with the case files of Lord El-Melloi II, it may be difficult to grasp just how formidable this group truly is. Fewer than 15 students have officially graduated from the El-Melloi classroom. Even counting dropouts or those from other departments, the number does not exceed 50. Yet nearly every one of them is a figure capable of influencing the future of the Clock Tower, the headquarters of the Mages Association. In other words, this is not merely a group of students, but a super elite magical consortium of 30 individuals, combining both talent and potential. Initially, they were not Riders Masters. The command seals belonged to Doris Lucendra, nicknamed the Imitation Demon, a magus specializing in enhancement. Seeking to revive her declining family, Doris accepted the invitation of the war's orchestrator and entered this Holy Grail War. However, before the summoning ritual was even complete, the El-Melloi students arrived. Interestingly, they handled the situation with notable restraint. They did not gang up on her, partly because Ryder's personality would not have permitted such conduct, but instead sent a single representative to duel Doris. If victorious, they would claim the command seals. After a fierce battle, Doris was defeated by Rin. This was not merely a victory of strength, but proof that the new generation had truly matured. Subsequently, one of the class's prodigies, Werner Caesarmund, recreated the magecraft once used by Kenneth El-Melloi Archibald during the Fourth Holy Grail War. By combining it with a command seal, he redistributed control among all 30 members. This was a strategic decision, transforming a single master into a collective system in which intellect and magical energy were distributed yet tightly interconnected. Although the command seals were shared, Doris remained within Ryder's master faction. Officially, the justification was that the original contractor would help maintain stability. However, it is equally possible that this was simply an excuse for Rin to avoid removing Doris from the war entirely. For in the end, though they clash on the battlefield, they remain magi of the same generation. Unlike other factions, Waver's group does not fight for personal ambition but for a common purpose, to end a distorted Holy Grail War at its very origin. True assassin faction, Faldeus Dioland. Faldeus is one of the true masterminds operating behind the scenes of this Holy Grail War, a magus hailing from the United States. Before his identity was exposed, he infiltrated the clock tower to steal intelligence. What is particularly chilling is that even his direct mentor failed to detect his betrayal. This alone demonstrates that Faldeus is not merely a capable magus, but also a patient and calculating individual, adept at concealment and willing to wait for the perfect opportunity. His family specializes in puppet manipulation magecraft. A distant relative once participated in the Third Holy Grail War in Fuyuki and summoned an assassin-class servant. Upon returning, that relative transferred their memories of participation into a puppet, which was then passed down throughout the family. As a result, the experience of a Holy Grail War was not lost to time, but preserved as a collective inheritance. After inheriting those memories, Faldeus' grandfather made a bold decision to cooperate with the U.S. military and recreate a Holy Grail War on American soil, specifically in Snowfield. In other words, the current war was not a sudden whim, but a long-term plan spanning multiple generations. Faldeus is merely the inheritor and executor of that ambition. By his generation, however, the plan was not yet ready to be activated. Everything changed due to the intervention of Francesca Prelati. Her theft of fragments from the Fuyuki Holy Grail and her cultivation of them in the United States inadvertently fulfilled Faldeus' grandfather's unfinished wish. In essence, Francesca provided the materials, while Faldeus constructed the system, and thus the fake Holy Grail War was officially born. Faldeus' belief is both clear and extreme: dedicate all magecraft to the United States. Unlike traditional magi, who distance themselves from politics, Faldeus chooses to place magecraft under national authority. In the Fate universe, this is an exceptionally dangerous ideology. Magecraft, which is traditionally kept hidden to preserve the secrecy of the mysteries, ceases to be a path toward the route once drawn into the machinery of war. Instead, it becomes a strategic weapon. And it is precisely this ideology that poses the true threat to the order of both the Mages Association and the hidden world at large. True Berserker faction, Black Magus, Haruri Borzak. She is tied to a branch of dark magecraft that first appeared in Fate Zero. If you recall, the Magus who used demonic bees to transform airplane passengers into flesh-eating corpses, that individual was Haruri's grandfather. The tragedy of her family began when the Mages Association coveted the secrets of their dark arts. Her parents were falsely accused of heresy, executed, and stripped of their research. Surviving this catastrophe, Haruri harbors deep resentment toward the entire magical community. She does not participate in the war for the Holy Grail itself, but for revenge. Her true wish is to drag all mysteries into the light, erasing the very concept of secrecy, the foundation upon which magecraft stands. Although she inherited her family's magic crest and possesses relatively solid magical ability, Haruri is timid by nature, easily influenced by circumstances, and almost entirely incapable of direct combat. Like her grandfather, she can control demonic bee familiars whose venom induces deep sleep. Notably, however, she does not use her dark arts to curse others to death. Rather, she primarily uses them to counter curses. The cost is brutal. She must offer her own flesh and blood as sacrifice. For this summoning ritual alone, Haruri prepared a large quantity of her own blood. Tragedy struck again immediately after the ritual was completed. Her servant lost control and turned against her, leaving her gravely wounded and nearly dead. She survived only because she was saved by the artificial human Philia. Ironically, however, Philia had already been possessed by a goddess. Among all the masters in this war, Haruri may be the most pitiful figure, a magus driven by hatred, yet constantly swept into forces far beyond her control. The catalyst originally given to her by the mastermind was meant to summon Thomas Edison. Instead, what manifested was a four-legged mechanical puppet named Humbaba, the colossal demonic beast of Mesopotamian mythology. This creature can enlarge, shrink, or completely conceal its body, and is even capable of triggering natural disasters, such as floods and earthquakes. Only after being trained by the goddess Ishtar did it begin to obey its master. This alone reveals how fragile Haruri's position truly is. Not only are both master and servant demonic in a literal sense, but even Philia, who did not originally participate in the war, has had her body seized by the goddess Ishtar. To oppose Ishtar, her mortal enemy Ereshkigal will also make an appearance. Gradually, the battlefield begins to reenact the Babylonian creation myth in a modern form. Although certain masters form temporary alliances, the factions are not as clearly divided as in Fate Apocrypha. Sooner or later, they will inevitably clash. More strikingly, some masters possess power sufficient to directly confront servants, blurring the boundary between human and heroic spirit. Some characters even aim to dismantle the Holy Grail War itself. The scale, the chaos, and the intervention of divine beings make the Snowfield conflict one of the largest battles in the entire Fate franchise. With the exception of Fate Grand Order, few other anime series can rival its complexity and mythological scope. I hope this analysis provides a clearer understanding of the characters and the broader narrative context. If you found it helpful, feel free to share your thoughts and continue following future in-depth analyses. Until next time, goodbye.